answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
One of the great movie scenes, a confrontation between Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson from 1992's A Few Good Men. One of Hollywood's biggest directors, Rob Reiner, directed Tom in that film. And he joins me to talk about Tom Cruise, President Obama, and his new movie, The Magic of Belle Isle. There's a lot to talk about. Rob Reiner, welcome. How are you?
Oh, good. How are you doing, Piers?
Good. I just want to start quickly with Tom Cruise, obviously all over the news again, as befits a man of his movie star status. What kind of guy is Tom Cruise? You work with him, you've directed him. There's lots of stuff being said about the man. What's he really like?
Well, I mean, just as a professional actor, you couldn't have anybody who was more dedicated, more passionate about his work. I mean, you know, from a director's standpoint, he was a dream to work with because he always came on time. He knew what he was doing. He was a hard worker and all of that. I mean, the Scientology aspects of his life really didn't come into play into his day-to-day performance on the set. So I can't really speak to that part of him.
You've been married for 23 years to your wife, Michelle. What is the secret? You've seen many, many Hollywood marriages, not just Tom Cruise's, but many others come and go and fall and fail. What's been the secret to your successful marriage, would you say? Well,
you know, a number of years ago, my mother and father celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary. And my mother said, when they asked her what the secret to that was, and she said, find someone who can stand you. Not find somebody you can put up with, find somebody who can stand you. I've very luckily found somebody who can stand me, and I can stand her, and we love each other, and we're best friends, and you go from there.
Let's move to politics. I know you've got a lot of views about all this. President Obama, he's facing an election in 4 months' time. What is your overview of where the election battle currently stands?
Well, I think it's interesting to point out that here we are in the midst of the worst economy since the Great Depression, and the conventional wisdom is that no president has ever won re-election when the unemployment rate is above 7.5%, and here we are at 8.1, 8.2%. And Obama is still leading in the polls. So I don't know what that says. I think it says a lot about the candidate he's running against, Mitt Romney. I don't think people really trust him. I mean, when you look at the accounts in the Cayman Islands and the Swiss bank accounts, I don't think people really feel comfortable with Mitt Romney. They don't feel like he understands them. And I think that people like Obama, and I think that when it comes down to it, it's going to be a very, very close election, very tight. But if you look in those key battleground states, Obama is still ahead, and I know he's being outspent tremendously on the air, but I think that the get out the vote, the registration and get out the vote drive will put Obama over the top, and I think he will win a second term, but it's going to be very, very close.
If he does win, but by common consent, I think, President Obama hasn't been the miracle worker people perhaps ridiculously expected him to be, in the sense that with the economy in the shape it was in when he got elected, no one could perform miracles. But he certainly, many people, even his best supporters, wish he'd gone further with things. Well, if he gets re-elected, where would you like to see him really put his foot on the pedal?
Well, first of all, you used the word ridiculously, which is exactly right. For young people who are voting for the first time, who might have become disillusioned, I think they have a distorted view of how quick the economy turns around. We were in the worst economy since the Great Depression. It takes a while to turn around, and it is slowly in fits and starts moving in the right direction. Now, having said that, and I think regardless who wins the election in the fall, we're going to see 6% unemployment in the next couple of years, either way, because the little-known secret is that the government really has very little to do with the economy in terms of the ebbs and flows of the economy. What I'd like to see President Obama do is really focus on clean energy and having a real comprehensive energy policy, because ultimately it is going to be the new industry. There are going to be great new green jobs. It's going to reduce our dependence on foreign oil and also have an effect on reducing the effects of climate change. So these are all the things that I think are important going forward. But the economy will take care of itself, and I think it is slowly starting to do that. It would have done better had the Republicans not blocked with a filibuster. And this is really the ugly truth about Washington. You really do need 60 votes to get anything done. And when Obama made that what we call a gaffe, when he said the economy is, well, the private sector is doing fine, what he meant was the private sector is moving along at a good clip. What's not doing fine is the public sector, and that's because we have reduced government spending, and all of the things that a president can really do is focus on those infrastructure jobs. And again, this would be technology regarding green jobs, but also you know, roads and bridges and so on. And those jobs have been blocked in terms of moving forward. So if we can move forward on those jobs, if we can get some cooperation from the other side of the aisle, and also focus on the energy jobs, I think we'll move in the right direction. And I think the economy will correct itself. But it doesn't happen overnight, and it's going to take some time.
Let's take a short break. Rob, come back and talk movies. Your new movie, Magic Belial, starring a very controversial actor, but possibly my favourite actor on God's earth, Morgan Freeman.
Who's up for some high-stakes poker? 5-card draw, deuces and one-eyed jacks wild?
I'll play.
How much you got?
Morgan Freeman starring in Rob Reiner's new film, The Magic of Belial. I'm back with Rob now. He wrote and directed this movie. Tell me very quickly, Rob, why should we go and watch this film other than the fact it has the brilliant Morgan Freeman in it? Well,
that's a pretty good reason. I mean, you said he's your favorite actor. I've been very lucky to work with, I think, the two best film actors in the world right now, Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman. If I could make every movie with Morgan Freeman, I would. If he would narrate my life, I'd be very happy to have that. He has the greatest voice in the world. But it's a really, I think, one of the best pieces I've done. It's about a man who's given up on life. He moves into this lakeside community for the summer, and he's in a wheelchair. You find out why. He's been drinking. He's lost his wife. He stopped writing. He was a novelist, and he moves next door to a family, Virginia Madsen and her 3 daughters. And through the course of the summer, he learns to live again through his relationships with them. And it's really about finding a way to celebrate life no matter what your situation is. And I started exploring that idea with Bucket List when I turned 60, and I realized at that point I was a very, very, very young old person. I started thinking about my mortality and how precious life was. And so you start thinking about what is really important and how do you squeeze as much joy out of life as you can, regardless of what your situation is.
The thing I like about Morgan Freeman is you always get the feeling he doesn't really care what he says or what people think of him. He's a man completely comfortable in his own skin. Even over the weekend, he said the following: America's first black president hasn't arisen yet. Obama is not America's first black president. He's America's first mixed race president. And that has got a lot of controversial headlines. What do you make of that statement as a man who's campaigned for Obama?
Well, I don't know quite what to make of it, except for the fact that I think if you're going to measure on the scale of the fact that he had a white mother or that there's a mixed race of it, then I don't think we'll probably ever have any black presidents, because, you know, by the time we all realize that race isn't important, we're all mixing the races as we speak and as we all evolve forward. So I don't know that. And I don't know that we haven't had already a black president. There's probably some black along the way with some of the white presidents. So I don't really know what to make of that, but you know, for all intents and purposes, yes. So Barack Obama is our first African-American president. He's really African-American. He has an African father and an American mother.
That is undeniably true. Before we go, Rob, I just want to talk to you briefly about Nora Ephron. It was the memorial for her today, a huge turnout as you'd expect. Meryl Streep, Tom Hanks, Mike Nichols, Rosie O'Donnell, many others. You worked with her on When Harry Met Sally. What was the secret of Nora Ephron? What made her so special?
She had the most keen ability to observe this awkward dance that men and women do with each other. She had the most wonderful, curvy way of expressing basic truths about male-female relationships. She was funny, she was a lot of fun to be around, and the greatest gift you could ever get was getting an invitation to a Nora Ephron dinner party, because what you knew you were going to get was great food, great conversation, and lots of laughs. So we miss her terribly. It was like, I felt like when I heard it was like the rug was pulled out from under me. I felt like this isn't fair, this isn't right. And the people in that room today all felt the same things. Her son spoke beautifully, and her sister Delia, and it was a beautiful memorial, and it was funny, and it was orchestrated and directed by Nora. I mean, it's the way she lived her life. She told you what to eat, what to order, where to stay when you went on vacation, and if you were smart, you listened to what she said because she was always right.
Let's take a very quick look at a clip from When Harry Met Sally, one of my favourite films and many other people's favourite films.
Yes! 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 Oh! 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 Oh, God. Oh.
I'll have what she's having.
I mean, that one line, "I'll have what she's having," is one of the most famous lines in movie history, isn't it?
Yes, and that's my mother who's delivering that line, which...
Is it really?
Yes, and she has been made famous by that, and she will have her take her place in movie history along with Clark Gable, and frankly, I don't give it, my dear, I don't give a damn. I love that Estelle Reiner is lumped in there with Clark Gable.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And great to see that Nora got a terrific send-off today. She was a remarkable woman. Rob Reiner, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Piers.